I will already introduce our next session, which is on private investment. In order to reach the ambitious goals defined in the Green Deal, considerable investment in existing and as well in new infrastructure is needed, especially in the transition towards a European circular economy. The Commission itself assumes in its proposals a green investment gap of 260 to 300 billion euros per year by 2030. That means that engaging and collaborating with the private investment sector is of tremendous importance. I am welcoming our next keynote speaker, Guy de Sevaux, who leads the business development practice of InvestNL in the transition to a bio-based and circular economy. With his team at InvestNL, he focuses on the material transition in plastics, bio-based materials, and critical raw materials. And he published a number of research papers, among which one on the role of circular venture building in the transition to a circular economy. Your stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here for the first time in this audience. We are from InvestNL. We are a new kid on the block of public investing, not private actually, and would like to take you through the things we did so far and the reason why we are here. And perhaps we can start the presentation. I can't start it from here. Some technicality. Yeah, thank you. Yes, next slide, please. First, some words about InvestNL. InvestNL is a Dutch public investment organization that started in 2020 and is basically aimed at investing in sustainable companies, startups and scale-ups mostly, with an initial capital of 1.7 billion euros. So far, we invested something like 700 million, both in funds and in direct companies. I'm sorry. Does it work better now? Yeah, good. Inside our company, we're like 100. We have everyday discussions about what is sustainable, what is circular, how do you measure it, and step by step we move into something that sounds that becomes more and more sustainable. But then the definition changes all the time, of course. So we are very driven all together as a big team to make that happen. Next slide, please. So as already said, we've targeted initially, because we can't do everything at the same time, we targeted let's say the sectors which need a lot of time to make happen, which is plastics recycling, new plastics, bio-based materials, bio-based plastics, metals and critical raw materials, of course, I would say. And then we look, of course, at circular frontrunners, the best practices, pilots, and everything we can do to make financing for these companies happen. The next slide, please. A crazy slide, actually. Don't go too far in it, but this is an academic picture of a transition. But it serves to show a little bit how we look into this circular transition. Basically, we see 3 levels of transition. So one is on the bottom, all kind of innovations, new companies, new projects that start, where all of you are, of course, busy with. There is a mid-level, which is what we call socio-technical, which is regulation. For example, all kind of intermediate things we need to organize to make sure that these niche innovations can happen at all. And then all together we come onto the highest level where we change the society into a circular society at the end. So we work basically on all 3 levels, which is an interesting position to be in. We're kind of neutral in this whole perspective, and try to help basically everybody in the sector to make that transition possible. So from bottom up, we work with, of course, we invest in companies. We don't invest in projects yet, perhaps. That's not the case yet. We give business development support to companies. We run a number of accelerators. We will come back to that. And then on the mid-level, we work with all the ministries in the Netherlands and some regional authorities, of course. Develop specific financial instruments for the circular economy. We'll come back to that too. and advise government on all different levels. And then together we try to create a joint vision on all these different aspects, of course, notably on the financial side, that we have to work on together to make things happen. Next slide, please. So we are a big team, actually. By now we are like 20 people that work on circular and bio-based only. We did something like 15 investments so far, both in direct and indirect. So 2 of the funds in which we invest, ECBF and Polestar, are here. So that's really nice to see you guys. And we have a background, yeah, and of course in financial, but also in the broad area of technical and social academic backgrounds. You see some of the companies we invest in. So I said ECBF and Polestar. Infinity Recycling is the first fund in the world that is chemical recycling of plastics that we co-started. You see some companies like Human Corp or PMC or SCW that do recycling. PMC, by the way, already went bankrupt, so we had our first scar on the system. Our learnings went fast. We invest in Fairphone, which is a fairly sourced phone company, or in Bibora, which is advanced textiles, or Avantium, which is bio-based plastics, perhaps known to you. Just examples of what we do today. Next, please. And then we already said we do a lot of research together with the market, and where possible, publish. Sometimes it's, of course, too sensitive to publish for companies, but most of it is public. One, I mean, this is a big slide and not very readable, but on the bottom there is bio-based materials. And in this context, it's perhaps good to say that we worked together for the last 3 years, actually quite intensively, with a company which is called, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's still paving the way for bio-based materials. It's a company that makes bio-based plastics from waste streams, actually, from wastewater. They now built their first demo plant and aim to scale up to really sizable end of next year. And we actually work together with them step by step through their process, from waste, through all the regulations, through all the marketing they need to do, and to understand that plastics is really a very different business than wastewater. I mean, putting a plastic on the market will take you 20 years. When they started, they had never imagined it would be 20 years. They thought, well, 5 would be nice, but it's much, much more. So that's, and we can help them all through their life cycle to get there, which is nice. But by the way, all this is mostly also in English, available on our website. So if there are elements that are interesting to you, please go there. Next, please. Now, circular venture building is a topic which started from a very basic understanding. We have to invest in companies. We looked for circular companies. We didn't find circular companies, at least very, very little. And said, well, how do we get there? So I mean, we can say they are not there, so we can't invest. So we can go in a reactive mode, or we can go proactive and see how we can bring companies that are there and that need to scale up into a circular mode. So can we help them? Can we lure them, teach them to go into circular? So we went into a very simple question. My background is industrial design, actually, but I worked a long time for DSM, a big chemical company in the Netherlands, which has a very, very strong accelerator program, had it for 30, 35 years. So we went there and said, well, can we use your best practice to translate it into circular? And we asked the guys who were driving that process to research that, to see whether that would be possible. And then after a while, like say 2 months, they said to me, well, no, that it is absolutely a wicked question. It's a crazy question. It's impossible to do this because you need to change everything. Like the transition slide I showed you, you have to work on all the levels to make it possible for a company to become circular and to be successful in the circular area. So I'll come back to that. In that process, we looked into many different accelerators in Europe to understand what was going on, whether there were KPIs, how much money went into that. I mean, basically for every startup in Europe, there is one person like us helping them, one-on-one. So public person, and then a lot of experts and people that are around these startups. And we wondered whether we could use that whole body of people to bring them into a circular mode. Then we don't have to do it ourselves. We can just step by step go there together. So that's what this research was about. We also saw that the people in this area of work don't really see each other. So there is no organization around that heading all these accelerators. So we will definitely start to bring them together in some community of practice, initially in the Netherlands, and then combining with other countries as it happens, but focused on circular, and that will happen later this year. Next slide, please. So the most important things that we learned there, and for you all here, it will be nothing new, but from an investor point of view, it's quite dramatic what's stated here. So first of all, when you start with I will quickly go through this. When we start with as a circular company, you have to start from a systemic point of view and not from a company point of view. So you have to think about how your whole cycle looks, your value cycle looks, your circular value cycle looks, and make contact with all the different companies to see whether you can create the whole cycle. So not only buy circular, but also sell circular and make sure you get your stuff back to use it again, for example. As we speak, one of my good friends is talking with a very big German company to tell them that they have to take back their products as they are and just make from that set of materials new materials, which is a huge challenge for them, consumer products. And that's basically the very basic notion of circular. It's about kilos, it's not about money actually. How much material do I have? What can I do with it? And can I use it again and again and again? And that is very practical. It's a very, well, say an engineering challenge of a classical order. But yeah, it's not obvious for companies and certainly not obvious for investors to look at it like that. So coming back to the slide, we see that we have to redistribute the value, the money value in the whole cycle to make it happen. We try to create cycles where all the companies in the cycle can invest in the new company that arrives on the block, and that can help the whole cycle to thrive or to grow, whatever. We also see that, contrarily to all venture capital activities we have today, this is not an area where the winner can take it all, where you have unicorns all over the place. That dream, we better stop it from the beginning. I say, listen, guys, this is going to take much more time. You will not have any unicorn because everybody needs to learn and everybody needs to live, not only you. And it will take much more time than you think. So much more time than 5 to 7 years with a venture capital company. And it means that we have to figure out ways to make a new, let's say an ecosystem of capital that can work in this way. That can work together, first of all, which is of course never easy, but can also work together in a way that we create the whole value chain and not only the one company. Well, a lot of discussion, of course, and step by step with a number of investors, we start to create that notion and start to see whether we can work like that. But we are very much in the beginning, which is, well, we start from companies, investing in companies. We come now to the point to say we have to go groups, and that's where we are here, basically. We see you coming from the other side, working as cities or working as regions, where already you have ecosystems and infrastructures of companies that work together, and we might very well learn from you. How do you do that in a public-private environment? And how could we use your best practices to make this circular venture building successful in the private sector? And of course, I hope that we can bring elements of our learnings also to you in these contexts. Then we also already discussed a little bit about impact. We introduced CTI, circular transition indicators, as a measuring tool in our portfolio companies. In our yearly report, which will arrive one of these days, we have worked it out very much in detail. So we're the first 10 companies who went through this exercise to see, how that could work, how we could measure. But also we gave also targets to these companies to grow into much more circular on the basis of CTI. And we developed our own little measuring tool to see how companies would rate on the different R strategies. But a lot of discussion about impact, as you can imagine, CO2 against circular, whatever. Next, please. I will skip this one and then go to the next and again the next. Then some practical examples of what we do. In 2020, the Minister of Infrastructure and Water Management, and you can imagine that's an important one in the Netherlands, asked the banks and us together to create a platform to help the circular economy thrive and to develop financial instruments to make sure that would work. So we work on 4 work streams so far. One is risk. So we develop new risk models for banks so that they can accept circular companies or circular initiatives. And the first models are now implemented in the major banks in the Netherlands. We work on circular metrics. That's still much more complex because also CTI can be very simple, but still needs a lot of work on the company side. We have a number of landmark deals, let's say pilots of the most advanced companies. And then we develop specific financing instruments for circular projects and circular companies. And that works all quite well. We will publish on that again quite soon. And then it's again public and in English, of course. Next, please. We developed also what we call a circular financing roadmap to 2030. And in which these different work streams are detailed. I won't go through all the details, but this is something we also will present in Helsinki in a couple of weeks, and work also with Nordics and other countries to see how we can implement it in more places. Next, please. Then we work with specific landmark deals, so like this circular facade, a big conglomerate of companies that make products as a service facades for buildings, where very specific financing is needed. And we have now developed, well, we are in the middle of developing a specific finance tool to finance groups of companies that work together on one big building and make these facades interchangeable and replaceable and well, whatever you can do with it as a product as a service tool. And the next, please, and then we are at the last one. On the basic, we have the accounting world, and in accounting there are a lot of barriers to circularity. So we started working with accountants, the Dutch Board of Accountants, a couple of years ago, to understand which elements are critical in accounting and which hinder basically the circular economy. And then we work on, let's say, very boring subjects as double VAT or the level of rest value of a product, of that kind of things that you can. That we should change to make it possible for a circular business model to thrive. There we work based on cases. We have published the first 5. We will publish again one in the beginning of July, and that work is ongoing. So again and again, every time we take a new subject that needs elaboration, and bring it then back to government also to be able to adapt rules and to adapt regulation to make things happen. Well, so far, some practical examples. I hope that may inspire the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guy. You can take your seat on the panel, please. This next panel will be hosted by Jorge Rodrigues de Almeida. He's the founder and managing director of RDA Climate Solutions, an independent advisory boutique specialized in energy, climate change, and sustainable finance. He's a leading advisor and also one of our Hoop partners, developing financial tools focused on the circular economy, but also supporting our project developers within the project, but also outside in his professional daily life, to support them, both developers as well as cities, to create bankable circularity initiatives. And a side note, he also trains to become a professional cyclist. So on this note, this is your ride.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I have the pleasure of having a great panel with me, with different backgrounds, but instead of me presenting them, I will leave the space for them to presenting themselves. We have a picture of each, not a picture, but an image that they have selected. So let's move to the next slide. So for this, I would like to give the floor to Ananya, sorry about not pronouncing correctly your name, for you to introduce yourself.
How do
yeah, this
one? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jorge. Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be here, and thank you for inviting me for speaking. Is it better now? Okay, got it. For speaking in this circular funding initiative. So I'm Ananya. I am based in Barcelona, and I work as an investment director at European Circular Bioeconomy Fund. So this slide here is a snapshot of what we do. We are a venture capital fund. We are headquartered in Bonn, and we invest in the bioeconomy and circular economy startups. Guy here is one of our investors, actually. So it's coming, altogether. It's a circular. Our fund is a 300 million euro fund. It's a typical venture capital fund with some atypical characteristics. So back in 2018, the European Investment Bank identified a funding gap in the growth and scale-up stage of startups in the bioeconomy space in the EU. So they decided to launch a tender saying that they will invest 100 million and invited GPs or promoters of funds to raise another 200 million. And that's how we came into existence, because our three GPs, they won the tender and then they went on to raise funds from family offices, regional banks, public institutions like InvestNL, and corporations, corporates who are in the space of food, chemicals, energy, etc. And so finally, we closed our investment fund in 2022, February, and we have been investing already from our fund. We have 10 investments in our portfolio. And to tell you briefly about where we invest, so we decided that for us, when we invest in the bioeconomy, we will invest in more or less everything excepting pure energy production and pharma sector. So having said that, we invest in agriculture, ocean, blue economy, food. We invest in sustainable packaging, construction materials, textiles, and also in industrial biotech, which we define as making chemicals and ingredients based on bio-based pathways. So the whole idea of our fund is to move away from fossil fuel-based production methodologies and do everything from bio-based feedstock. And so we track the KPI of greenhouse gas reduction as our necessary metric, and then other factors like biodiversity and pollution, etc., are also taken into account. So we invest all across the European Union and associated countries with 5 million ticket size initially, up to 10, 15 in each investment. And we have two companies which fit into the circular business model as well. So we have one in insect protein called Protex, and they are upcycling through insects food waste into protein that can be used as feed, and in aquaculture and animal feed, for example, and also some value-added ingredients for agricultural applications. And then we have another startup called Peel Pioneers, which is taking the citrus peels, which are waste from after making juice from restaurants and supermarkets, and then within a biorefinery, they process it to manufacture fibers and fragrances, aromas, etc., that can be used as food ingredients. We would like to do more in the circular space as well. And so we'll talk later about the challenges that we see in doing so, but that's briefly what we do.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have Carlos. Carlos is online. I think that it will be possible to put him in the screen. Carlos, can you hear us? At the moment, we cannot hear you here. There is some technical issue. We cannot hear you. Could you try again, Carlos? Yes, Carlos, we
Hello?
will. No, now we can hear you.
Hello, sorry.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First of all, well, my apologies for not being able to attend in person. So we're having a busy few weeks, and it was impossible to be here with you. My apologies, and thank you very much for the invitation and to do it also online. So I am Carlos Corominas from Grow Venture Partners. So it is a venture capital firm based in Barcelona too, that invests in early stage companies, normally in pre-seed and seed stage. So as a venture capital fund, so we have a clear purpose, that is to shape better founders, and with them create sustainable wealth and jobs with a positive impact in our world. So we are focusing and investing in spin-outs that come from universities and research centers, no? And we are investing in companies based on IP that has been developed at these institutions, no? So our target is that, and currently we are investing investing tickets from 100,000 euros, no, to 300,000 euros, no? So we mainly invest in deep tech industries, no, such as big data, hardware, photonics, and we really like everything related to engineering, no, as well as energy and clean tech too, no. So our activity is constantly working with and helping those inventors, founders, and entrepreneurs to that come from universities and research centers, no, to take this innovative technology to market in order to also to increase social impact and generate economic growth. No? So that is why we are here, and thank you very much for this presentation, this brief presentation. And this.
Thank you, Carlos. So online again, we have Filippo from Officinae Verdi. Filippo, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Sorry for not being here, for not being in Brussels. And well, I'm here on behalf of Officinae Verdi, which is partner of the project. Officinae Verdi Group is based in Rome. And since 2013 is developing and managing EU projects for project management and coordination, business and investment models development. And we are playing the role of financial advisor in all these smart cities projects and developing innovative business models and providing investment and financial solutions, mainly in the energy sector. And today's now the challenge is to bring in this circular economy sector the experience, the lessons learned, what we did, the tools we have developed in previous projects like City Exchange that I would tell today a brief story on this project. As I said before, to bring this experience and to be which could be applied and useful in a circular economy projects like Deciso. So the new challenge for us for the project is to assess, to measure investments, to find financial and investment solutions, and also to apply a methodology on how to involve actors and stakeholders, and to find solutions that measure and assess profitability and bugability of investments, and so that will be an ambitious goal for us. And today in the panel, as I said before, maybe it's a starting process by the previous experience, and find the possible potential solutions for circular economy.
Thank you very much, Filippo. Yes, we will definitely discuss those points. Now I would like to invite Sara to introduce herself, but before she introduces herself, just like to say some words. Sara is also a member of the Hoop project, and it's related with public procurement, and she will be specifically talking about innovation and how to deal with that, and she will do the bridge between the two panels. So she's not an investor here or a financier, but has a different view that is very, very relevant when we talk about innovation and when we talk about this project. But Sara, this was just to do the bridge. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, George. And thank you for this invitation. So about my background, since 2005, I say, my research and field work have been enthusiastically based on promoting and implementing innovation public procurement. So I assisted the Italian government to draft the guidelines to the soft regulation, and I have actively participated to the consultation on research and development state-head framework reform. And I am assisting, I think at least 80 or more public authorities or policymakers across Europe in more than 20 countries, in supporting them to solve problems, complex problems that involve innovation effort and that are pursued, solved through innovation public procurement. My consideration, I made the consideration that the research and development push approach, you can see from the left to the right, can't work, at least in the area where the public sector has a role, is the recipient of the innovation because he deploy public services. And I have noted, it seems, the similar graphics that you presented, but we haven't agreed on that, but we see the same with two different perspectives. But the problem is that policymakers and public authorities also still today rely on supply side research and development measures, such as subsidies. And this approach, even when ends with very promising patent, and when is complemented with costly technology transfer actions, typically do not end with real adoption of the innovation. So the exploitation and the business exploitation is not completed. So I think I'm convinced, and based on the empirical evidences that we have, I can invite you to see my research report measuring the impact of these pre-commercial public procurement policy, which is pre-commercial public procurement is a tool to get innovation technology reached, developed, and tested in operational contests. So starting from TRL2, that are not aimed at to face challenging. So in this case, I think that the demands need to be the triggering element, the engine. So the approach that is very convenient in this case is the one that we call market pull. So from the right to the left, where the procurers are, the market is predetermined and it drives industrial developments to become de facto standards in the sector. We have a lot of examples in Europe related to the healthcare sector. We have not so many cases in the area of circular economy, but I want to precise that I am dealing in a Hoop project with new technologies to treat and valorize urban bio-waste-based product to treat and manage the urban waste to produce bio-waste product. So we are dealing with the technology that are enabling factor for determining circular economy project and initiatives. So in this area, we have no relevant cases across Europe, but yeah, I think that there is the ground to work on that, on the demand side, also to mobilize private investment and venture capital investment in combination of these measures. This is my effort, and this is why I'm participating in Hoop project.
Thank you, Sara. So we have Guy also with us, but he already introduced himself during the keynote. So I would like to move for some questions that I have, and I will start with Sara for the link here. And Sara, so my question is, I understand that this pre-commercial procurement is a way to help researchers, to help companies to move forward and to put their products in the market. But how can the procurers ensure that the suppliers will then commercialize the new developed solutions? Could you explain a little bit on that?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I think, and I am convinced that, sorry, thank you very much, that the PCP can be implemented only if there is a planned complex investment at the end. So the evaluation based on a business case, so comparing cost and benefit, a public authority can decide to invest part of the planned investment to this pre-commercial phase, to discover and to compare alternative technologies and to see the pros and cons of alternative technology. So how can we ensure that the technology, the innovation will be procured? Because it all starts from the end. There is a need, a concrete need, a genuine need, and the decision is to anticipate this experiment, this development phase. Then there are other incentive or punishment mechanism in PCP project. The first one is that IPR's ownership is assigned to companies from the start, from the beginning. So they have the opportunity to resell their innovation to other markets afterwards. This is not a usual contractual clause. So the public procurers need to make this shift, passing from an exclusive based procurement to a non-exclusive based procurement. So the assignment of IPRs is fundamental. And if not, can be an obstacle absolutely for the exploitation of an innovation. In PCP, we have a fantastic mechanism that is because the law rule that the PCP is a procurement not not implemented for the own use of the procurement, launching procurement, and it has not to be fully paid. This means that there is a financial compensation that the suppliers, the awardees, need to recognize to the public procurer because the public procurer has not kept the IPRs. And this compensation can be provided in two forms, the ex-ante compensation, but the most interesting one is the royalty-based. So substantially, the suppliers, the winning suppliers that are able to arrive to the third phase of the PCP and are able to commercialize the solution have to give back to the public sector royalties. In my idea, and when I started work, I make an attempt. It was 2012 in Lombardy region. We created the rules of this revolving fund to finance the innovation project based on that. To be short, there are also other mechanisms, the possibility for the public authority to call back IPRs in case the suppliers are not active or they act against the public interest, and they can resolve barriers, legal barriers to make the innovation to be ready to be introduced and creating standards. These are the four measures that a public procurer can put in place to assure the solution is commercialized.
Thank you, Sara. And then this leaves me since you shared a similar slide, so Ananya, I have a question for you. So what is the importance of the VC capital to enter on this and finance such projects and to finance those gaps? And basically, why do you think that it's needed to exist, and how does it work?
Yes. So why is it needed? Well, most of these companies that are trying to bring these kinds of technology are they obviously are still at a very early stage in their lives, and these technologies also take a long time to actually be fully commercial. And so even when we enter at this stage where the company already has had more or less advanced to the technology phase, there's not much improvement to do, and they're ready to take it commercial. They need to build huge facilities in order to actually commercially produce whatever they are producing, be it let's say insect protein, be it other sorts of upcycled products. And so at that moment in time, they still need millions in capital, high tens of millions most of the times. And even with the funding that they could possibly get from banks, they can only get it if there is private investment already there in those startups. So the company needs to be well capitalized on the equity capital side. And so I think right now in the market, there are not many mechanisms where young companies and startups can actually get these kinds of capital. So that's where the VC comes in. Of course, with its drawbacks, as Guy already mentioned in his slide, the timelines don't match for a typical VC investment. We would like to hold for, well, our fund has a life of 10 years. So that's even if we do investment in the first year, it's maximum 10 years that we can hold it. And honestly, many times 10 years is not long enough for these technologies to be fully commercial. So we are doing what we can do. But yeah, different sorts of also funding mechanisms from the private side need to be there. But it's absolutely needed because banks are not willing to take the risk because they don't have the incentive today. And even with grants and subsidies, it's still a small part of the full capital stack that is needed to build these huge facilities to produce things at scale. So yeah, that's why it's needed.
Okay, understood. But now I have a question for Carlos, because you mentioned there that you have a 10 years period, and if you enter on the first year, sometimes it's not enough, those 10 years. But in case of spin-offs, so they are really in a very early situations. Thank you. Really in the early stage. So what is the biggest challenge that you that you see, and how you can help those spin-offs, namely considering this fact? We cannot hear you again, Carlos.
Sorry, no. Yeah.
No,
well,
does not work.
Now, correct? You hear me well?
So this gives you a little bit more time to think about the answer, and I will move here to Guy and ask him a question. Is how did it start, the circular venture building? How does
Yeah. Well, as a fund that is
actually, I hope I'm hearable. Actually, we started because, as I said, we were looking for companies to invest in. Circular companies to invest in, and found only very few, which sometimes were in this very difficult environment of chemical companies that need a lot of money, where you need a lot of you need to cope with a lot of risk. But we certainly wanted to expand the number of companies there. And that's on the one hand, so new, let's say, a new deal stream. But on the other hand, also we are investing in companies, and we have portfolio companies that require, because they are mostly quite let's say, challenging companies, require a lot of support. So from both sides, we looked at what kind of support would be available in the market already to help these companies reduce the risk, of course, but help them grow and introduce circular principles into these companies. And to initially we started, we were like a startup in this landscape. We thought everybody had thought about it. We will find that quickly, but basically we didn't find a lot. We didn't find hardly anything actually on that level. So accelerators, which are typically on the circular, in a circular world. So we try to find existing practices and merge them together. And we're still working on that actually, to merge that together into support programs that could help. And I hope, well, also in this audience, if any good examples exist, we are really welcoming them to integrate them.
Okay, so too much computers on my front. Too many computers on my front now. No, I would like to also to stress something from Hoop project is that the fact that we have developed also some of the tools that you mentioned, probably in a different scale, but we have done our best. For instance, on the risk models, so we have developed what we call due diligence standard process, because we saw that in the market we were not able to find a standard process for due diligence. We were able to find similar documents for the energy sector, for instance. There are quite few of them, and even all the banks or all the investors, they have their own system in place. But for circular economy, we found out that there were no systems. Each one is using their own or learning how when they do it, more of that. And that links me to Filippo and Carlos. I will get back to you in a moment. But Filippo. So this is a good example. For instance, our work on the due diligence was basically to see what we have done in things like energy sector or other sectors and try to move it for the circular economy sector, more specific for the projects that are under Hoop. But so that's exactly what you are trying to do when it comes to business model. Could you elaborate a little bit about these financing schemes and the investment solutions that you are trying to work on?
Yes. It fits perfectly with our topic. I mean, our experience, in the sense that we have developed in a city exchange project. We have developed in 2 demo projects in the lighthouses projects, one in Limerick, Ireland, and one in Trondheim. 2 learning experiences, let's say that, in energy sector, which could be replicated, and our goal, as I said before, it's our challenge to bring these learning experiences together with the barriers and difficulties in the circular economy sector in the Deciso project. What happened in these 2 demo projects? First of all, one of the main actions and result has been to involve stakeholders and citizens, and involving them in providing investments. And we have supported them in finding financial solutions in foreign investments. So what happened? We've implemented a methodology, okay, let's say a process, okay, to bring them and to stimulate them to provide investment. So in the Limerick case, we have calculated costs and revenues for all the energy assets in the PEB, in the positive energy block, including buildings, tidal turbine power plant, community grid, etc., etc. We have collected energy data, information. We have calculated costs and revenues. We have calculated many financial KPIs. Okay. But above all, we have invited them to support the municipality, which was the facilitator, the coordinator of this process, in supporting, okay, the municipality with their own part, with their own contribution to the foreign investments. So both cases, Limerick and Trondheim, we have designed and we have implemented the PEB, the positive energy blocks. But in the Limerick case, citizen engagement has been by the REC establishment, the Renewable Energy Community. So we have provided an analysis, a financial analysis, starting from the investments. Okay, so we have calculated savings with foreign investments. We have calculated the energy production in the case of the tidal turbine. Okay, and we have demonstrated citizens and the REC that the investment was feasible. Okay, so we have given them also some financial solutions. Okay, and this is the Limerick case where we have suggested them that probably the self-consumption by of the energy produced inside the PEB was the best solution, and that they could provide investments. Well, one part of the investment by grants, but the missing part could be provided by other financial solutions like a revolving fund, like bank loans, calculating all the costs of the investment, the interest rate, etc., etc. And well, we said, okay, these are the numbers, these are the costs, these are the revenue. The PEB is feasible and profitable. And in the case of Limerick,
Could
we
you
have
could you please try to sum up because we need to move for another question. Sorry.
No, just to finalize, it's that in the case of Trondheim, we have developed a financial risk sharing model, which is a very useful methodology and tool, where different investors, okay, invest in the different energy assets, batteries, building renovations, etc., etc. And we have measured and assessed the convenience to invest in the related energy assets. So, and as I said before, the challenge is to bring this experience into the circular economy. That's it concerning
Okay.
the methodology, the applied methodology to involve investors.
Thank you. It's clear that there is a need of this work of helping the investors also to understand these types of projects and to bring different views. Carlos, I don't know if you are able to speak now. Let's try again.
Yeah, here. And can you hear me?
Doesn't seem so.
No?
Okay, Carlos, we have to move forward. I will try again again in a while, but now I have to move here also for questions from the Slido. And so, Sara, could you very briefly present one case of a project that that was impossible to be funded, but it was successful using PCP?
Sorry, that was impossible?
Brief presents a successful project that looked almost impossible to be funded.
Hello?
Okay, almost impossible. Let's try. That has been funded both by European Commission with a mechanism of PCP and by venture capitalists. May I try this? The New Compliance is a Dutch startup that has developed an operating room cockpit in 2015 within a context of the Talea PCP project. A European project found public procurers, a public buyers group with members of at least 3 member states. And this company, New Compliance, has been able to sell in more than 35 hospitals in Europe this solution. USA have bought the solution as well. This company has attracted 3 million euro of venture capital investment. The solution has been integrated, fully integrated in hospital IT systems of other big hospital vendors, solution and technology infrastructure of Philips, General Electric, SAP, Johnson, etc. Why they have received this money. And we have a lot of cases, but focus on healthcare sector. This is my disappointing point. Also, Blue Ocean Robotics created a self-driving robot based on a challenge launched by a buyers group in a PCP project funded by European Commission. They have been able to attract 48 million euro from venture capitalists, and they are the ticket to become Denmark's next unicorn. But why they have received this money? Because I think that there is a perfect, it's a perfect matching between the funding seeker and the funding provider. Because if I may articulate, but it's up to you. To move just one second. Just there is a perfect matching. So investors have, I would say that PCP is create self-selecting group of investment target that automatically fulfill a number of important investment criteria. PCP is a multiple sourcing contract, so we have multiple companies in competition developing solutions. And there are particular elements that are of interest of venture capitalists. Then I will try to articulate if there is the time.
Thank you, and sorry for cutting, but I have here a question or two, but I will make it in one. For InvestNL, are you working outside of Netherlands? One question, and the second is if you ever dealt with circular innovations for public procurement, and if so, what kind of lessons learned have you learned it?
Yes, actually, InvestNL works for the benefit of the Netherlands. And that can be for Dutch, that is not normally for Dutch companies in Holland, but also Dutch companies that go abroad, of course. But also the other way around, to strengthen the Dutch economy with companies that want to invest in Holland. We have different sister companies that do wider international activities. Perhaps not as in other countries where everything is combined into one big state investment company. We have different ones, but we typically target the Netherlands. So we cannot invest if that's the question, we cannot invest for example, a German company in Germany.
Procurement, public authorities, have you?
It's a good question. I'm looking for examples. Normally we invest in companies, in private companies, and we work together with many different stakeholders to bring money to a specific place. The biggest projects we have now running is regarding the Dutch growth subsidies, which are running, but that's not really public procurement. It's a way to spur the Dutch economy with specific subsidies combined with investment into all kind of blended finance tools. But it goes a bit far, I think, to discuss that here.
Okay, Carlos, I will try again.
Hello, how are you?
Possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you. So,
really nice.
Now you have the privilege of closing the session, so it's more responsibility to you.
I don't know what's happening.
I will keep with the question of the spin-offs and the challenge of the spin-offs. But I would ask you to be in 2 minutes to answer this in 2 minutes.
Yeah. I will be brave about this, and yeah. Well, as I said, we are a venture capital fund that invests in spin-outs, researchers, and founders from universities. And I think that the biggest challenge that we have, and especially in Spain, is mainly one. We are great at research, no, but not good at setting up is the 12th country worldwide by scientific publications. No, so Spain produced a similar number of patents to Israel, Technion, no, so which has created several unicorns in this field. No, however, much less Spanish spinouts are created using this research or patents. No, so in many cases. These spinouts are coming from circular economy project, no? So that is important, no? So we are excellent at doing science, no, and disseminating into the scientific community, but we are not really good at setting up companies, no, and taking disadvantages of this knowledge, no. So we have a lot of researchers, a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowledge of many years of studies, no, but we can only read it in a scientific journal or something similar, no. So you can imagine that the impact of the impact's life is really small, no, in this way. So I'm not saying we don't want to stop our academics from publishing their research, quite opposite, no, but we need this knowledge. We need this knowledge and publishing, you know, but if we want to take innovative technology to market and support circular economic projects, so we need to do it more than this. No, we need to do more than this. No? So my first approach would be we have to encourage those researchers that has been developing, technology to become great founders. No, also, well, we need to improve education around the benefits of commercializing research, and we need to target these PhD students institutions properly, because we can take a more proactive approach in identifying good startups or circular economic projects that are hiding in the labs. So that is why we are working on it, and we hope to help in all of this, because I think it's the biggest challenge and the biggest finance gap that we want to solve as a venture capital fund. So this is I think so.
Okay, it's interesting, and it's a different view. So we come from grow ventures that invest to 100K to 300K, and then, for instance, ECVF who starts from 5 million. So it's different ticket sizes, but also so completely different types of companies. And then we discuss it PCP as a tool that drives the innovation through the demand, not so much through the development. I would like just to give the floor again to each one of you, but you can only use one word, and that word would be what word you'd select for your specific reason. You don't need to justify, but probably is how to boost innovation or how to boost the investments on the top. I know that it's not an easy one to select one word, and I will start. I have to start with someone. So, Ananya, I will start with you. One word.
Sorry. True cost accounting.
Okay. 3 words, but count as one. Carlos, you can also use 3 words. Top.
It's a phrase.
Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah.
Now we can. Yes.
Yeah. Help researchers to setting up companies.
Okay, it's going to 5 words, so I need to limit this. Filippo?
So do you want me, I give you 3 words? Lucas, you said, do you want me, I give you 3 words?
Okay, 3 words. Could you go ahead?
Okay, bankability, profitability, and social acceptance.
Good one. So, Sara?
words to explain.
Okay.
But I do not ask you.
And Guy?
Risk mitigation and appetite.
Perhaps the most practical mass balance.
So, so I think now it's time for lunch, but I will give the floor